Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the new Avan 2-inch micro prop from EMAX, and this is the one that's going to be coming out on the new Baby Hawk R that hasn't been released yet, but I got some samples of the new prop. It's a 2-inch prop with a 2.2-inch pitch, and you can see here that it's got a fairly aggressive pitch here, right at the hub, but then it tapers off quite a bit at the end here, and very difficult to see, but at the very tip it tapers up. So I think that reduces noise because this prop is actually quite a bit more quiet than I expected it to be. I thought it'd be quite noisy as a 4-bladed prop with a fairly aggressive pitch, but it's actually fairly quiet. And I wanted to see how this would do against my favorite prop currently on the 2-inch micros. It's the Gemfan Hulky 2040. This one does fairly well in terms of flight time, power, and efficiency. Kind of hits all the marks for me, and I've been flying a lot of these. I am flying this on my Diatone GTR 90. So I did fly these props on the Diatone GTR 90. Here I've got two of them, the exact same setup. I just have the Gemfans on this one here and the Avan props on this one here. And the nice thing about these guys is that they have a current sensor here attached to the XT30 connector. They're both calibrated exactly the same scaling and everything. So I'm going to be able to show you a little bit later some DVR footage with the current measurements from these guys at different throttle levels, so you can see how much power these things draw, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Now in terms of durability and also the stiffness of the prop, I think that the blades are a bit stiffer than what's on the Gemfan. You can see here, I'll try and put in a similar amount of force on this prop here. You can see it doesn't really bend that much. And if you look at the Gemfan here, it's for the same amount of force it'll bend more. It's actually quite a bit thinner, the blade itself. And if you look at the Avan prop, it's actually got quite a bit more material here, and the plastic also feels a bit different. It's a sort of a matte plastic, matte touch, versus the Gemfan's kind of a smooth plastic, so it might be slightly different polycarbonate, but hard to say as to how this will do in a crash. It does have quite a bit of material here at the hub, and it's fairly wide at the hub here, so probably won't snap off, and there's a fair amount of material underneath as well, under the scoop. So I would say they probably get a fair amount of nicks and stuff on here. Not sure if it's going to snap off at the hub like the Hulkies do. Maybe you get a lot of bends here, though it would take quite a crash to bend this. I think this prop will probably be pretty durable. I'm not exactly sure where it'll snap off. I do think that though, with this little tip here at the end, which is hard to see, that this piece here is going to probably break off at some point, and then it's going to probably make the prop noisier or less efficient, because I'm pretty sure that they designed that to make the prop a little bit more efficient. Okay, so comparing the weights of the props here, the Avan comes in at 0.89 grams, and the Hulky comes in at 0.83 grams, so a little bit lighter, so that's about what I would expect. Got an extra blade here, and the blades are a little bit meatier, although they are, obviously, the Hulkies have a wider blade, or a wider paddle, and the Avans are a thinner paddle here. So the samples that I got did not come with any screws, so you're going to need some 6mm M2 screws to mount them to the motors. These are some 1104 motors. I believe that they've told me that later, maybe not the first batch, like later batches of the Avan props will come with screws, but the first batches probably will not. So if you are looking for screws for your props, 6mm M2s will work. I believe the Hulkies still don't come with screws yet, so kind of wondering why they haven't gone on the bandwagon with the screws yet on the Hulkies for Gemfan. They should get some screws for those when they sell these. So here's a comparison of the current draw of the Avan prop to the Gemfan 2040, and I found that at 50, 75, and 100% throttle, the Avan prop consistently drew more current than the Gemfan 2040. However, I didn't really notice much of a difference in terms of thrust or power, also in terms of speed. At the lower 30, 50, 70% throttle range. It was only when you were almost at full throttle, like 85, 90, 100% throttle, where I noticed that it seemed like the Avan prop was had a little bit more power than the Gemfan 2040, although it's not really that noticeable. And at more normal like speeds, when you're kind of flying near the ground, I typically fly around 50% throttle, and I found that the speed was fairly comparable. The control I found was also fairly comparable in terms of making hard turns. It didn't feel like I had more control with the Avan prop versus the Gemfan prop, at least in my initial testing. One thing that I did notice is that the flight times are definitely shorter with the Avan prop, using of course the same battery on the same setup here, and I was consistently getting about 30 seconds less flight time, probably in the neighborhood of 2.5 minutes, whereas I could probably get about 3 minutes, pretty much flying the same patterns on the 2040 prop. So I'm not exactly sure if there's much of an advantage of switching the prop unless you do a lot of freestyle flying and want to go full throttle, or if you're in a race and are going to be at full throttle for most of the race. I'm not sure if a lot of people are going to fall into that category. So if you're more interested in more flight time, I would say stick with the 2040. If you're really looking for ultimate power, then yeah, the Avan prop I think probably has a little bit more. But in order to take advantage of that power, you are going to need some pretty good batteries, and would recommend getting at least the GNB 450s, maybe even a bigger battery like the 500 or 550, because this prop will definitely kill your battery quick. However, I think that this prop is definitely worth checking out. It's a reasonable price, and if you're looking for a little bit more power, a little bit more speed, and maybe I think if you use a different motor, like an 1106 motor instead of an 1104 motor, you might be able to take advantage of this prop over the 2040. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.